Kia ora tātou, I'm Madeline Newman of the AI Forum for New Zealand. And joining me today are Wayne Berg. He's the Deputy CTIO of NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratories. His specialty fields are in AI analytics and innovation development. We've also got Daniel Wrench, who is the New Zealand one of the 5 New Zealand interns this year with working with NASA JPL. He's also the winner of the Alex J. Willoughby NASA JPL Fellowship for this year. Also in the studio I have Glenn Willoughby. He is the CEO of Singularity and the founder of Frontline AI, which is a cancer detection AI company. He's also one of my executive council members with the AI Forum. Welcome, Glenn.
Hi, Madeline. Thanks.
And I'd also like to thank the folks here at the Media Design School who've done such a fantastic job of hosting us today. Wayne, if I can just come to you first, could you give us a little bit of a background about these internships, the purpose of them, and just how special they are?
It's, the internship started about 3 years ago, and Glenn was actually there. He was one of the initiators of the program. I'll let him speak to that. I came in for the last 2 years, and the first year we had 1 intern, the second year we had 2, and this year we expanded to 5. The division that I manage, we focus, the interns that came in were really focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning for the first couple of years. This year, the candidates that we received were very diverse. And instead of shying away from the challenge of not being able to find them all positions because they weren't all relevant for AI or ML, we looked more broadly across the lab. And we were able to get interns working on Mars 2020, right? The Perseverance rover that just recently landed on Mars, on a new robot that's being developed called EELS, which is built like a snake, which is going to explore Europa. Boy, I really should know that.
Enceladus. Yes.
Enceladus, thank you. Terrible. You can tell I work on too many things. Astrophysics, astrobiology. It's really a fascinating both collection of interns and also the projects that they're working on this year.
Glenn, you were instrumental in organising this. How has it come about?
Well, it started way back in 2018. So the New Zealand Space Agency approached me to look at discussing internships at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is one of the 5 NASA sites about an hour north of LA. And the then Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, Tom Soderstrom, decided that we should just try one. And then, unfortunately, the world walked into COVID. So our first intern ended up operating it online. Fast forward to where we are today, we now have 5 internships that are currently at NASA JPL, not just based in AI or based in IT, but also in biology, astrophysics, and they're involved in live NASA missions at the moment. The name, the Alexander J. Willoughby Fellowship, at the time we wanted to name it after somebody. One of the people that came to mind was the first director of NASA JPL, which was William Pickering, a New Zealander. But Chris Mattman, the current Chief Information Technology Officer, chose to name it after my son, Alexander J. Willoughby, which is where the name comes from. Fast forward to this year, the New Zealand Space Agency ran a very extensive selection process to look at selecting interns to go to NASA JPL. And usually you just appoint 1, maybe 2 has been the history. It's only been a few years. And through Wayne, the view was the 5 that were shortlisted were so good, let's take them all. And these are positions of interns that are not just in a research component. Wayne had placed them into actual live missions. So it's grown from very small online humble beginnings to 5 New Zealanders operating and gaining experience directly in live missions. That's a pretty amazing achievement and gift by NASA and JPL.
Absolutely. Sorry.
If I could provide sort of the counter position, I think that we are gaining more than you are, because the interns that we receive every year, Daniel, cover your ears, are absolutely incredible. And we get so much work out of them. And I mean, obviously we work very hard to make sure they're getting benefit as well. But it's really been a win-win for everyone involved.
Hey Daniel, coming to you, can you tell us a little bit about your history, your story? How did you get there?
Sure, yeah. So, I grew up in Wellington, and when I was about 15 or 16, I remember I saved up and I bought my own telescope, and I also watched the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey at a similar time, and from that moment on, I've just been completely enraptured by space exploration, and it's been a real passion of mine. When I went to university, though, I thought, well, I enjoy working with numbers and I'm very curious, so I ended up studying statistics. And but through this time, I was still very interested in space. I helped found the New Zealand Student Space Association to try and empower Kiwi students to pursue their passion as well. But yeah, when I heard that I qualified for this very special space scholarship and fellowship, I was extremely excited. I thought, now I can really, truly pursue my passion for space at the very highest level, in the world, really, coming to NASA and JPL. So I had to apply. I still wasn't quite sure, whether I would make it, given, I hadn't studied physics or engineering, which to me are the big, space subjects. But yeah, as it turns out, there's a fantastic data science and AI team here at JPL. So I was extremely, excited and over the moon to have been one of those picked. And I really have to thank Glenn and Wayne and the work by Chris Mattman as well for making this possible and for giving us all a shot at this incredible place over here.
It is really amazing. Are you allowed to talk about anything that you're working on, or is that super top secret?
I can probably talk a little bit about it, Wayne. So my project title is Machine Learning for Topology Optimization, which was a very intimidating title to me as well when I heard about it.
We're good at intimidating titles.
But what that means is basically using these algorithms from the field of AI, which are becoming more and more popular with every passing month, really. But applying that to this engineering problem where when you try and find the best design for some part, say something you want to 3D print that might be part of some spacecraft or satellite, when you're trying to optimize that design, it can take a very long time, even on the biggest computers, to find really detailed structures. So my project is bringing these techniques from machine learning and trying to accelerate that process and make it far easier for engineers to iterate through lots of different designs and find what's best for the job.
Are there numerical goals? Currently, it takes X amount of time. You want it to take?
Well, yeah. To find the very highest resolution of structure, it can take months, even on big GPUs and multiple cores. When you want, say, millimeter size structures to find, we're hoping for at least 10 times, but likely 100 times improvement on that kind of time frame. And the early results that I've been helping to improve upon are pretty promising so far, so fingers crossed that'll be being used sometime in the future.
That's pretty important as well. So even from a New Zealand perspective, being able to make those sorts of improvements in design and manufacturing across the board, so both for large infrastructure but also for smaller manufacturing projects, it's really important. And I think, Glenn, there's a part of this for us is that there's a bit of a gap for New Zealand in productivity levels at the moment, and it's this kind of technology and this kind of know-how that can help us to address some of that.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting case study. So if we look at the Mars rover landing not that long ago around Perseverance and Ingenuity, the helicopter, you can only go to Mars once every 2 years when the orbits align. So like any organisation and any business, any opportunity to de-risk your projects, de-risk your activity, and save time puts you in a far, far better chance to achieve the outcomes. And in that case, landing on Mars at the right time frame. Miss that deadline, you've got to wait another 2 years. So a lot of, whether it's an AI company, whether it's a technology development company, or even NASA, a lot of similarities around what new tools can be applied to make what's being done in organisations better, safer, faster, and in a lot of cases cheaper. And this is a good microcosm where you bring a whole heap of teams and people and technologies together to achieve those sorts of outcomes. So often NASA can look like a really distant, futuristic place, but at its heart they have the same challenges to face just like any other organisation. They just do it in a very different place.
Excellent. What are the so Wayne, Daniel's not the only intern there. We mentioned there are 5 others. I've got their names here. There's Celine Jane, Jack Nash, Leah Albro, Michaela Dobson, and as well as Daniel. Can you talk a little bit about them and what they're up to and that? Yeah.
I will attempt to be brief, and I may need some assistance because it is quite a cohort this year. Celine Jane is actually helping on a DARPA project. DARPA, for those that aren't familiar, is with the Department of Defense. It's the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. So DARPA has invented things you may have heard of, like the internet, GPS, the technology that enabled Siri and sort of, our ability to talk to cell phones today. So they are basically tasked with looking 5 years in the future at what is going to be possible and funding that to make it happen today. So Celine is actually working using the open source rover, which is something that JPL has released in the past. It's a rover that anyone can build, full hardware details as well as software, so you can control it from your phone. It's sort of a little tiny model of the rovers that we've sent to Mars, using that as a test bed for. Sometimes it's so complicated. The gist is that when there are binary files, right, files that you can't open and edit directly on a piece of hardware, that they want to be able to have software that will download that code, analyze it, reverse engineer it to create the code, so then you can make modifications like security patches, things of this nature, and then reverse that entire process and upload the code back to the hardware device without turning if it's a spacecraft, into a floating brick, right? So there's a lot of complexity around that, and Jane is in the process of helping to build the test bed to test all of that software using the open source rover. Go ahead.
Jack is working on the eel, isn't he?
Jack Nash is working on EELS, which help me with the acronym. EELS is a snake-like robot. You can look it up on YouTube. There's some fantastic videos. It is meant to go to an icy moon where they believe that underneath the outer layer of ice in the warm water at the core, there's most likely life. And this is Enceladus. And so the robot can move in, I think, 6 different ways. It can move multiple ways like a snake. It can corkscrew down through the ice. It can actually swim once it gets into the water. It's a pretty amazing marvel of engineering, and it's one of the what's the term they use? One of the potential future projects, right? It's not approved for a mission yet. It's something that's being explored to see if this is a direction that we want to go with future rover architectures. So Jack is working on that.
And what about Leah?
Leah Albro is working on citizen science
for exoplanet research, right?
Exoplanet research. So they have a lot of images of our of stars, and the way they detect exoplanets is they can tell when they have a video or a number of images of stars, there's a wobble in the star if there's a planet going around it. So obviously, on the one hand, we are working on AI and ML models for doing this, but at the same time, they are releasing these images publicly and driving a citizen science effort to have anyone who has interest be able to look through the massive quantity of images for stars that likely have planets around them. And Leah is helping with a number of different aspects of that project.
Great. I'm sure there are some stargazers here that would love to know that. Also, Michaela Dobson.
And Michaela arrives in a week,
Yes.
I believe. She had to start later because of other requirements that she had to school. And she will be working on Mars 2020 with the science team. And her focus is astrobiology. So I forget exactly, there were a couple of different projects that I know they were talking about in terms of when you look at Martian rock, how do you know if there used to be life that is now encased in that rock? So that's sort of the foundation of some of the work that Michaela will be doing.
Sounds like she's got her work cut out for her. Hey Daniel, what's the future? What does the future look like for you? Where do you want to go?
Well, again, before I got offered this scholarship, I never really saw working at NASA as a possibility, but now suddenly the doors feel wide open. So just to have got this foot in the door at such a prestigious institution makes me a lot more excited about where I could go. The aspect of the current space industry that really inspires me is the Artemis program, which is NASA's new plan to return humans to the moon, which seems to be really getting into gear at the moment, and already collaborations with Rocket Lab in New Zealand, for example, and bound to be more potential for collaborations between the two countries in the future. So any way that I could get involved in that program to get people on the moon again, I would be pretty excited about. But I think it's really opened my eyes to where data science and space intersect, and how the range of different applications across that intersection. So very excited about a career hopefully in the space industry, and also in data science and AI, now that I know it's possible.
Well, it sounds like you're sitting right next to the correct person. Hey, listen, thank you so much, guys. So thank you, Daniel and Wayne at NASA JPL. Very fantastic of you to take time out of your really busy days. And thank you, Glenn, as well, for joining me here. And thank you to the Media Design School for helping us to record this amazing interview. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne and Daniel. Thanks, Madeline.